We need not have a conflict, but there's going to be an extreme competition. And I'm not going to do it the way that he knows this, because he's been sending signals as well, that I'm not going to do it the way Trump did. We're going to focus on international rules of the road.
Really? President Biden says he's prepared for competition with China as he sets out to reverse more of Donald Trump's policies. Here to react, Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton. So, Senator, he's not going to do it the way Trump did it, but he hasn't even called him yet. The first visitor that President Trump had at Mar-a-Lago was the president of China. So what messages are they supposed to get in China? Because they have not slowed up at all.
Good morning, Brian. No, they haven't. I'm glad to see Joe Biden singing a different tune now. You know, the campaign, he said the Chinese leadership weren't bad folks and that they weren't our competitors. Of course, they're our most dangerous and long-term strategic competitor. But to simply rebuke President Trump for being the first president in 2 generations to stand up to the Chinese Communist Party and to say he's going to do it differently without specifying how he's going to do it differently is not a show of strength. Look, it was a year ago this week that I started demanding investigations into the labs in Wuhan and whether they could have been the source for the plague that China unleashed on the world. You know, the media at the time hyperventilated that I was spouting conspiracy theories. Now they're admitting it's plausible and it needs to be investigated. Meanwhile, a year later, we're still dealing with the fallout here in America. Our schools are closed and kids are not getting educated, in no small part because of Chinese communist malevolence and negligence.
So, Senator, my follow-up question is going to be, what action would you like to see from President Biden to show how tough he is going to be on China? Would that be it? Demand answers and access to the Wuhan lab, as in right away?
That would be one very simple thing to do. I mean, even his friends in the liberal media are demanding that we get access to those labs in Wuhan, that China began to come clean about what happened there a year ago. There are other things, of course, he can do, like continue the arms sales that we accelerated to Taiwan in the Trump administration, make it clear that we're going to stand with our allies on China's periphery as they continue to threaten places like Taiwan and India, and can make clear that we recognize that China is a dangerous threat. And he says he wants to follow the international rules of the road. Make it clear that we know that China uses those international rules and organizations and tries to bend and corrupt them to their own interest. And then we're not going to stand by and let them do that.
Absolutely. And India could be our best friend on this because they are more concerned than maybe even we are. So let's talk about ICE. This is a quote that I think is a great launching off point for this conversation. An anonymous ICE official, with the new rules having been read, they've abolished ICE without abolishing ICE. The pendulum swing is so extreme, it literally feels like we've gone from the ability to fully enforce our immigration laws to now being told to enforce nothing. What the new rules include, they will no longer deport immigrants for crimes such as driving under the influence and assault, and will focus instead on national security threats, recent border crossers, and people completing prison and jail terms for aggravated felonies.
Yeah, Brian, it's astonishing. Right now, we're in the so-called 100-day pause of deportation, which means murderers and rapists get to stay in this country, even though they're illegal aliens. But now the Biden administration is saying they're not going to deport criminal illegal aliens for serious and violent felonies like assault. This is just one more part of Joe Biden's radical agenda in his first month in office. You know, it started with the Keystone Pipeline, putting American workers out of jobs while he's protecting criminal illegal aliens. Joe Biden and the Democrats are putting American workers last and illegal aliens first.
A senior ICE official said the Biden administration had nothing to do with these new decisions. Speaking on the condition of anonymity, the official said they had not heard about the operation, but it's possible career staffers had planned it and set aside while awaiting new instructions from the Biden team. So the enemy could be from within. We'll have to see. Now let's talk about something else going to be happening this week, as if we don't have enough on our plate. Back to impeachment part 2. It's all about January 6th, the riot at the Capitol. We know the Democrats' offense is going to be mainly through video. And there's the timeline you see up there. January 11th, House introduces the bill. What has taken place since? But we know that they're going to introduce video of showing the president talking about stolen election and stop the steal. And they're going to have some cuts from his 70-minute speech that included comments from Rudy Giuliani and others. What's the Republicans' counter?
Well, Brian, it's really the president's counter, and I'm not a part of his legal team. I'm a member of the Senate, which is listening to the arguments from both sides. So I'll listen to both of them. I'll say, though, as I've said now for a month, that I think it's beyond the Senate's constitutional authority to have an impeachment proceeding, the point of which is to convict and remove from office a man who left office 3 weeks ago. I think it's also a set of misplaced priorities. The Democrats continue to obsess about Donald Trump when Donald Trump left office and went to Florida 3 weeks ago, when the Senate should be focused on things like how to expand vaccine production and distribute it more quickly. Those are the priorities the American people want us to focus on, not an inquest into who is now a private citizen.
I think it's a tough road when you're going to look at someone's speech and look at how people react to that speech and then charge the person who makes the speech. Because anybody who has a muscular conversation or a rally and has someone misinterpret it in your profession, now you're responsible for their action when there's been no history of violence at Trump events.
Well, Brian, I mean, there's a long list of Democrats whose video could be played as well, like Chuck Schumer standing on the steps of the Supreme Court last year, condemning 2 justices and threatening them if they ruled a certain way in a case that day. So much so that the Chief Justice had to issue a statement rebuking Chuck Schumer's statements. Or Maxine Waters at a rally in California, calling people to get together and form a mob and to confront Trump officials if you saw them at a restaurant or a grocery store or a gas station. There's a long list of Democrats engaged in intemperate and incendiary rhetoric as well.
Yeah, I think so, too. When you tear up the State of the Union address with the stand and chuck it, that's not really the best message either, I don't think. Senator Cotton, another action-packed week on Capitol Hill.
Yep, it will be.